Hey, we are here at Macedonia Baptist Church in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we have been working alongside Jake. No, not Jake, creator of Churchfront, although he has been here on site and helping us pull cable and everything, but Jake Taylor is in the Accelerator program, and so he's been a part of the Churchfront family for a little bit, and he reached out to us specifically about what can we do in this room? How can we take this renovation that we're doing and really do a good job of stewarding what our church has to make sure that the audio, video, the production side of things is done really well. So I want to walk you through all of the things that we did here at Macedonia. We're going to talk about acoustic treatment, the broadcast video, the audio, the PA that we put in, all those things. So first off, let's start with acoustic treatment. And when I say start off with, I mean both in this video, but also it's the first thing that we generally recommend that people do because it has a great impact on everything. So you're just in the room, no other technology exists, and you can hear congregation members better, you can hear whoever's teaching better, because acoustic treatment, once it's up, it's done. No more software updates or firmware updates. It's gonna make your room sound great, and it allows us to put a PA in and then tune the PA to the room as it's finished. So they went with the Prime Acoustic panels, and let's show you a little bit of what they've got going on here. This is unique in a couple ways. They're the paintable panels, so you can see the wall color and the panels match because they've been painted the same color, but they also put this really cool trim around it. So they had some contractors come in and put this wood trim around it, and I think it looks really nice. We've never had anyone do that before with these panels. I don't know if Prime Acoustics has seen that before, but I just thought it added a really nice touch to add this edge around the panels, and it looks really good. One other unique thing about this space is that they wanted to preserve the history of the church and keep the beautiful wood ceiling. So we didn't put any acoustic panels up on the ceiling, and we put some along the back wall here, which has helped a lot. And just having the entire face of the balcony wrapped in acoustic treatment has helped a ton. So it's still a little bit live in here, but it is much better than it was, and it is controlled really well right now. For the PA in this room, we put in Fulcrum DX1577s, and then for our fills underneath of them, we have our CX896s. So those are covering the front couple rows here. And we did not need a line array for this size room. We were able to get the coverage that we needed with just the DX1577s, but having the downfills on there really helped take care of the front row. And the way that we were able to do that is that we ordered custom rigging from Polar Focus. So they designed the metal rigging that's holding the speakers up in a way that it's phase aligned. So the top speaker is pushing out audio, the bottom speaker is pushing out audio, and it's physically designed so that we didn't have to do as much work in the field or on the DSP to make sure that things lined up well. For the sub, we have a 218, so we've got a dual 18. There's two 18-inch drivers in there, and it's being hung again by the Polar Focus rigging. So we had a fun time getting that up there. We had to use both a lift and a chain hoist, and multiple people to get that to be hung up there safely, but turned out great, and I'm really happy with the way we were able to put that in that position. If we were to push it out further into the room where there were maybe beams that were easier to hang off of, we just would have gotten a different audio response than we wanted from having it over the top of the stage. So that turned out really well for us. For this front of house booth, it is one of the best front of house booths, one of my favorite front of house booths that I've seen. Also, Jake in the Accelerator program, not Jake from Churchfront, he built this. So he actually sourced all of the wood and the material here and took some recommendations from, we had worked together on making sure that he had designed this in a way that worked really well. So he took the recommendation of the slanted edge so people can't put their drinks on there. Hopefully they realize that it starts to slide before they get too far. And it's got this fabric front that really helps you have a more accurate mix to what the rest of the people in the room are hearing. And it also fits the aesthetic of the room. Like on the front of the stage, there are these kind of spaced pieces of wood here. So I'm really impressed with the fact that he had built this all on his own. Let's take a look on the inside. Inside the booth, we are elevated maybe 10 inches or so, and there is some insulation underneath of us, so it's not like mixing on top of a hollow box. Again, we've got the low end pass through with the mesh, and then we've got some insulation inside the base, but you are still elevated. This, I don't recall exactly where he sourced this from, but this is a really nice tabletop that he was able to find, and it's just one piece of wood all the way across, and on top of it we've got our Waves LV1, which we'll get into, with 2 screens, 2 fit controllers, 2 screens. And then our next workstation is that we have lighting and computer graphics on one computer, and then we have our multi-view for our ATEM constellation. We're using Canon cameras, so we have the Canon controller, a couple of stream decks to control both the cameras and the video switcher. And then this computer we can use for different things like multi-track recording and getting into the ATEM software a little bit more. And then we have the Boxcast Spark that we're using for our actual encoding for the broadcast. So 3 stations, one is video switching, one is computer graphics and lighting. Lighting is generally triggered by ProPresenter, so one position can do that pretty well. And then mixing, and then the mix for broadcast comes off of this console as a matrix mix. And we're able to do that well because the room is treated, the PA is nice, and it is treated properly, and the stage noise is minimal. So all of those factors make it a lot easier to come out with a great broadcast mix. I also really like the chairs that he picked out. I haven't sat in them too much yet, but they look pretty comfortable. And you'll also notice that the top of the table is pretty clean, and underneath of the table is pretty clean. We've got all of our cables running into this cable tray right here. So we're able to punch out of these wherever we need to around the back side. One of the design elements that I recommended that Jake had to do in this space is to leave a gap on the back side of this table, which might be hard to tell from video, but there's a space back there, so any cables that need to drop through can do that. And the fabric also acts as a space for cables to go. So he had cut a slit along the fabric where the table meets the wall, so any cables that need to pass down, we're able to do that as well. The other thing that you'll notice about this tech booth is that there's one rack, and all that's in here, other than drawers and switches for power, is a power unit, our local inputs and outputs for the mixing console, our actual mixing console, which is the scope and the server together, and some network switches, and then we have our wall panel pro for the lighting. So we were able to accomplish this because, you guessed it, KVMs. We've got KVMs in this install as well, so that's what makes this table so clean. So I'm really happy with the way this workstation came out. These are 27-inch monitors, so didn't leave a lot of room for any extra positions or someone to pop up here with a laptop. That's one thing if you're thinking about building a workstation. I always really appreciate being able to just have a spot for, be it a communications director, a tech director, a pastor, someone to just come over and set their laptop somewhere and be able to work a little bit. That's definitely something that I would put into any future workstations that I'm a part of building, and hopefully that tip helps you guys as well. So we've got the Wall Panel Pro, so we're able to just use this to control the lighting in the space. We can switch it back to console. So this is a really handy thing to have if you have people that are gonna come in and use this space and are probably gonna be intimidated by the lighting software, or maybe don't want the computers to be on 24/7 and someone needs to come in here and run a Bible study or some kind of event where you don't need a tech director to be there or the worship pastor to be there for them to just turn some lights and audio on. So this is something that we generally spec and have found to be really useful. We decided to go with the Waves LV1. This is the 32 channel version. We decided to go with this because I've used this in the past in a similar situation. There may not be a professional front of house engineer here every week, but you can still get a great sound by using this console because you have the ability to put in whatever plugins that you want and save those as presets and really easily pull those presets back in. It makes it a great console for volunteers. I believe that the touchscreen, although we do have physical faders, the touchscreen is also something that's going to be more familiar to people because people use touchscreens on their phones every single day, and people don't use mixing consoles with knobs and faders every day. If you've ever thought, that seems not intuitive for a mixing console, I would counter that by saying most people are more comfortable with touchscreens than they would be a mixing console if they're not primarily an audio engineer. If you are primarily an audio engineer, then you know the power of the Waves plugins, and you'd be excited about the ability to get into that and really make some great adjustments. So we've been really happy with the Waves system. We have a lot of pieces in here right now. We've got our Stage Grid 4000. We've got the Stage Grid 1000, which is at front of house, and then we've got 3 computers connected, and then we're also using the MyMon remote. So these are the ability to adjust the in-ears with a phone app. So the band has already gotten up and running on that and are comfortable and used to that. We have our Axis Scope computer, which is running the Waves LV1 software. And then we have our Extreme C server, which is doing all of the processing for the plugins. On this computer, we use Live Tracks for multi-recording and playback. Although it is on the complete opposite side of the tech booth, it made the most sense with the rest of the positions. So we're able to just trigger recording and playback from this and use that for virtual sound checks and training on mixing. Live Tracks 1 is, I think, a $15 software, and it is to replace Tracks Live, and it is built on our door, and it's basically Reaper with a nicer skin. So it's a lot easier to operate, and I think it's really optimized for multi-track recording and playback and live environment. So we've been really happy with using this as our multi-track recording and playback software. Like I said, it's only $14 or $15, which is a lot better than paying for Logic or Ableton Live or one of those other DAWs that cost a lot more money. A great option. One other really cool thing that Jake Taylor had built into this tech booth is he's got a motion sensor for these LED lights. So if it's dark in here and you walk up, the motion sensor will detect you and turn the LED lights on. He's also got LED lights underneath of the table as well. For broadcast, we're running the Canon RCIP100 controller. This controls the 2 Canon cameras that we have, the PTZ cameras that are above the center of the room. And then there's one on the side wall as well, so we're able to get some great shots from those 2 PTZ cameras. And then also with this setup, we're using the ATEM Constellation 2ME. So to control that, we're using a Stream Deck. So we have a Stream Deck that is set up to cut the cameras, and another Stream Deck that is used to actually pull up presets on the cameras. So we've got different presets for each camera that we can use. And with the power of the Stream Deck and ATEM all together, we've got this set up in a way where you can choose a preset, and it also pulls that into preview, and then you can cut to that camera. And then if you want to pull up a different angle on the other camera, you can pull up that preset, also put it into preview, and then cut. So it works really well, this system that we have here. We also got a couple of lighting scenes that we have on the Stream Deck as well. For computer graphics, we're running Pro Presenter, and for lighting, we're running Light Key. So pretty standard for us here at Churchfront. A lot of people are familiar with these pieces of software. We like Pro Presenter and we like Light Key, and they work really well for almost every church that we work with. So it was just something that they were already using. For Pro Presenter, Light Key is something new to them, but they've already figured that out pretty well. So on the stage, we have a drum cage. Again, this is a Jake Taylor original. He had built this. He had found this plexiglass for some kind of great deal, and then built the entire wood structure. So it's curved along the front and it's flat along the sides. And then there is a back to it as well. So there's foam and a curtain on the backside. And inside of it, there is a PTZ camera that is mounted, so we're gonna be able to use that for a drum cam shot. For the drums, they got this Gretsch Catalina kit, and for the cymbals, we went with the Heartbeat Epic series. So I'm a big fan of these Heartbeats. I have been for a while. Also on the drums, we've got these drum drops, which are kind of like moon gels, but they don't get all sticky and gross. And then we've got the SC Electronics drum mic package. So we've got these for the snare and the tom, and then we have condensers for our overheads right here, which Jake had built some stands for right into the drum cage. For their keys rig, they've got the Studio Logic for the MIDI keyboard, and then they're running Sunday Sound on an iPad, and so this is plugged into an audio interface here. For actually plugging in inputs on the stage, because the entire band is in-ears, we didn't need any returns. We only needed to send inputs from the stage to the stage box backstage. So we're able to use these cat box drops from Sound Tools. So in this position, there's electric guitar and acoustic guitar. And so we're able to just send an Ethernet cable to the backstage rack, and then each Ethernet cable can carry 4 XLR inputs. So we only needed 4 of these to get all of the inputs on stage, and if for some reason they grow, it's a very easy cable run. You just run one Ethernet cable and get a pair, one of these send and receive units, and then you can have more inputs on your stage. Another thing I really like about these units is that they are very portable. If you need to unplug and clean the stage off, you can roll up the Ethernet cables and house these somewhere, or if you need to change the position of where you want to plug instruments in, you just pull the slack out of the rack room, and then you can move these drops to wherever you want on stage. All right, we have our AV rack where almost everything is housed except for what you saw in the other rack at front of house. So the reason that this is a shorter and smaller rack is that we really wanted it to fit in this specific space. So we'll be able to roll this in and close this door. But we chose this spot because the stage is right behind here. They haven't finished the electrical, so you can see that's the stage right there, and we're able to run a lot of our cables just through the wall through some brush plates that we had put in there. So that was one of the reasons. Also, through this hole, you can see they had an access panel, and that's where the stained glass on the front of the stage is, and we're able to go up through there for cable runs. We're also able to go to some other spaces through the crawl space underneath of this electrical box. So this was just the ideal position for us to be able to do all of the cable runs that we needed to do. And it was also a spot where this wasn't much going on in this closet, and we were able to kind of have this as a space, and because there's a door on it, it keeps it a little safer. That's why we chose this position and why we have a smaller rack. There are stairs here with an angled ceiling, so we're only able to go so high with it. But we're able to fit everything that we needed to in it, and there are rails on the back if we need to add more equipment. Inside of this little rack, we have a Middle Atlantic power sequencer, a 6-step sequencer. We ran a cable to front of house so they can remotely turn on and off this switch in the correct sequence from front of house position. We have a PCL, a Pro Church Lights DMX distro. So Pro Church Lights did the lighting design, and Jake Taylor and his team here at Macedonia deployed most of the lights, and we helped a little bit once we had gotten on site. And they're able to pull in all of their DMX over an Ethernet cable that we had ran, and then they're able to send out to their different chains right here. And then I've got that those cables kind of tidied up on one of these pan bars here. Now we have our Mac Mini. So this is housing the Mac Mini computer that is running the multi-tracks recording and the ATEM software. And then below that we have our ATEM Constellation 2ME. Again, a great fit for most of the churches that we work with. We find it to be a really well-designed device. It's got enough inputs and outputs for most people to have growth, and it's not overly priced that you can't get into it if you're running 3 or 4 cameras and you want to do computer graphics. It's a really great choice. And then below that we have the X-Mac Studio by Sonitech. Inside of this is their Mac Studio that's running the computer graphics. So we've got ProPresenter and Light Key running on this computer here. And then we've got a brush plate that we're just running our cables through to their Ubiquity switch. So this is a really cool switch. It's a 16 port, and then on the right side is actually where the power supply is housed. So if you were to buy just a 16 port switch, it may not look like it's rackable, but then you can get this kit that holds the really large power supply right inside of this section of the rack unit. So that's pretty cool. Beneath that, we have our KVMs. So one of these is connected to our Mac Mini, and one of these is connected to our Mac Studio, so that we can keep the computers back here and then just have the workstations at front of house. We've got another power unit, and then we've got our Combine 8. This is a combiner, and so all of the in-ears are going to be on this right here. So they've got 8 XSW in-ears from Sennheiser. Below that, we've got our microphones. So we've got 2 of the SLX D4D units. So one rack unit is 2 channels of microphones, and then we've got 2 of those, so we've got 4 total. And then with that, we've got our distro right here, which is the Shure UA844 SWB. So this provides both power and RF connections to all of the Shure microphones. One thing I forgot to say about the RF Venue is it does the same. So the RF Venue is not a specific brand. It doesn't have to work with only Sennheiser or only Shure. It can be combined, and it also provides power and RF to each of the units. So I'm really happy with the way that all of our RF came together there. Again, another brush plate, so we can easily pass cables through a clean way. And then we've got our Stage Grid DS Pro 4000. This is where all of the inputs and outputs for the Waves LV1 system come in and out of for the stage connections here. So we've got all of our XLRs for our in-ears, and we've got all of our stage drops here. Below that, we have the cat rack. So on stage, I showed you all of the inputs, and you're able to put all of the XLR inputs on stage and use a Ethernet cable. This is where this comes to, and then we just use our XLR patch cables to get into the actual preamps of the system. Below that, we have our single amp Unica 8M, which is from Powersoft, and it's powering our sub, our 2 mains, and our downfill speakers. So this one amplifier is doing the digital signal processing as well as sending all of the signal, powering all of those boxes. So pretty powerful that you're able to power an entire set of speakers for a system on a 1U amplifier and do the processing inside of it. Right behind this wall, a little bit lower, is where our rack actually lives in that closet. So again, we were able to use brush plates to just come through the wall and do all of our cabling. Right here we have the RF Venue antennas for both the in-ears and the microphones. And we were able to place these right here, go through the wall really easily, and we were able to get the signal that we need from all the wireless on stage. With doing our cable runs here, we did not have to worry about any conduit because of these balcony areas. We were able to run all of our cables from front of house up a small chase across this balcony and then into these storage cavities above the stage and then down. So it really made for a simpler cable running process, being that all of the cables were either at front of house, in that rack, on stage, or up to our speakers, and it was all in one room. So a lot of times when you're going through the process of a renovation, you need to think through, how am I going to get cables from this point to that point? And fortunately, in this specific room, it worked out really well that we had the pre-existing balcony and the chases and where we're able to put the rack.
Hey, my name's Jake Taylor. I'm the worship pastor here at Macedonia Baptist Church. We just finished a major renovation of our worship space and partnered with Churchfront along the way, and I'm so glad that we did. 2 years ago, I took this job as the worship pastor, and it was a small worship team, about 3 people, and there were a lot of changes that needed to be made. It was a choir-led service, traditional hymns, but I was brought in to help with the transition to more modern worship music. And for those of you who have walked that path, you know how difficult that can be. Not only on the tech side, the sound, the lighting, but also the emotional side. A lot of emotions get involved, and sometimes you can feel alone, and that's where I was. I felt alone, and I had watched some Churchfront videos and some previous jobs. I knew that they offered the worship ministry school and that partnership, and there was a day that I realized this is too big of a task for me to handle alone and in a healthy way. So I chose to apply and reach out to those guys, and they have just been amazing to work with. They've walked with me through through this journey of the renovation, they've shown grace in areas that I didn't have much knowledge about, and some of the sound and lighting. And they never shamed me in it. They just educated me and encouraged me, and sometimes made the tough decisions that I didn't know how to make. And we just finished installing new lights. We were down to two spotlights in our worship center, and our live stream video and audio was pretty poor quality and didn't represent the service that we believe that we have in the room. And we wanted to give an experience at home that would draw people in. And now, after the fact, we are so confident. We're excited to leave our services up on the live stream and for people to watch. And also with the new tech, I feel empowered. I've already more than doubled my worship team, but it's also, I feel like I can recruit now. I feel like we have tech that good, experienced musicians want to come play on, and that gives a confidence in your job to move forward and to grow your team. And so super big thanks to Adam and Jake and Luke and Matt. The guys have just been incredible. And again, I have no regrets. I would do it all over again, and just very thankful for it.
Also, thank you to Macedonia for being really hospitable. Pastor Donnie has been great. Jake Taylor has worked harder than most any other worship leader that I know in all the effort that he's put into this, because he really cares about his church worshiping well, and to do that in a space that both honors the past of what this building was and the future of where this church is headed. Great things are here to come at Macedonia Baptist. I'm excited for what the future holds for them. We're actually preparing for a worship night right now, so after I'm done filming this, I'm gonna wrap up a few different things, and then tomorrow morning we have the first Sunday services in this space. So the church has been waiting for a long time for this moment. Before I go, I want to let you know, if you're interested in any kind of transformation for your church similar to this, you can go to churchfront.com/apply and find out if it's a good fit for us to work together. Thanks for watching. See you next time.